Well, hi everybody, it's Dr. Drake 63 here again today. Thanks for joining me. As promised, I'm going to do a follow-up video to the unboxing of the Smith Wesson M&P 15 police version that we picked up. And today's goals are going to be a function test. Want to make sure this thing shoots right. Just so you know, I've already taken it apart. I've made sure it's well lubed. I've run a bore snake down the barrel to make sure that everything's going to work great. So today's function test is going to include sighting in, albeit roughly at 50 yards. And in addition, we're going to have a little bit of a fun iron sight shoot-off with my favorite rifle, which is the SLR 104FR, which is an AKM 74 copy. So stay tuned, enjoy today's video, and of course, I'd love to hear your questions and comments. Just a few things to note when we go shooting 5.45 out of one platform versus 5.56 out of another platform. I would not consider this a scientific shoot-off by any stretch. A few reasons for that. Number one, I'm going to be shooting out of basically peep sights with a longer sight radius on the AR platform versus the AK platform, which has a much shorter sight radius. It's a different kind of sight, notched rear sight, as I like to call it, with a 65 MOA, basically semicircle up front. So first off the bat, we're not comparing apples to apples in terms of sight radiuses or sighting systems. I'm going to have to confess here that I shoot an AR-15 style peep sight system a lot better than I do the AK system. Second thing to note, the AK is a 3,800 round firearm for me with a completely broken in trigger. I know exactly when it's going to break. The arsenals tend to have what I call a poor man's two-stage. And so that's going up against a mil-spec, never shot Smith Wesson M&P 15. So that trigger's not going to be quite as easy or lend itself to the accuracy quite as well as the AK. So are those two things going to balance each other out? I don't know. But unscientific tests, we're not using optics. I'm not here to compare the ballistics of the two rounds. There are a multitude of gel test videos available on YouTube. Just search them for whatever round you want, and you can see what they do. Also, there are a jillion different versions of 5.45. I'm shooting 62 grain, cheapy, what I call mil-spec ammo for the 5.56, and I consider something like Red Army Standard or Wolf, which we're going to be firing today, by the way. I consider those rounds to be comparable in that they're not the type that you'd use for hunting. They're not high quality brass loads. They're rounds that go bang. They tend to have a standard deviation in terms of feet per second out of the barrels. Are typically going to be somewhere around 50 to 75 feet per second. So there's certainly situations where that wouldn't be tolerable if, for example, you were shooting match grade ammo. So here's our very first shots at 50. And you want to say it's to the right. I don't know which one is a flyer because the very first shot I shot. But, I'm going to go ahead and try a couple clicks to the left and 5 or 10. Let's see what we got. Okay, so after doing a couple clicks, you know, that's I don't want to mess around with it too much more. That is, I'm actually going to use the same target just to see where we're at. And then we'll do a comparison on groupings. Three shots through the SLR 104. Looks a little bit left, but I don't really do anything with my sight just yet. We'll take a few more practice rounds. see, works pretty well at this distance. Okay, so obviously when we fire a little bit quicker, it opens up, as you can see, when they're taking their time. But they're getting a 5.45 in there real nice. So now it's time to 10-shot test. Okay, there's my first 10 shot, about 50 meters, and this is with the SLR. Looking at this second group, for whatever reason I was pulling left. Evident first shots that that's not really an issue with the sighting, that's more of an issue with the shooter. But I had that 5 zeroed in pretty well, this M&P. And besides that, right there, everything is to the right and high. So I've got some work to do. I don't know if we're going to be able to get it sighted as well as this SLR 104 for purposes of today's shoot off, but it's clear we need to come to the left a little bit and down a little bit. So we'll make that adjustment and see if we can keep this going. Okay, I'm going to get the elevation a little bit more where we're still off to the right. Finished up, finishing off the magazine. Also forgot to mention, I'm a big replace what you shoot that day at least guy. So despite the fact I've got about 3,500 rounds of 5.45 at home, I went through 2 magazines today, replaced that, and bought a little bit more 5.56 than I shot today with a 1-9 twist on that Smith Wesson rifle. Looking for more of the 55 grain. I imagine it'll probably be a little bit more accurate with that. So there's that. Okay, well, what kind of conclusions can we draw from today's shooting? Well, number one, kind of as I anticipated going into it, I knew I was going to be working with a much smoother trigger with the SLR 104. And as crazy as it sounds to say that a mil-spec type AK trigger is going to perform better than a mil-spec type AR trigger, if you put 3,800 rounds through one versus the other, it will make a difference. I could feel while shooting this Smith & Wesson M&P 15 a slight pull to the right. Now the temptation is, well, if I want to accuratize this weapon, I'll put one of the POF drop-ins, which I love so much, into that firearm, and it will shoot more accurately. However, I'm going to be kind of a stubborn bastard about this, stubborn SOB, and not do that. Instead, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to see what it looks like after 3,000 rounds. But here's the conclusion I'm going to draw from shooting through a Bulgarian cold hammer forged chrome line barrel that's a well broken in firearm, and a Smith & Wesson M&P 15 4140 barrel that is not chrome line, the chamber and bore are. The conclusion I draw is that the accuracy given using the low-priced surplus type ammo, which is Wolf, which is the 62 grain 5.56 that you can get for the cheapest price possible. The conclusion I'm going to come to is that both of these firearms have similar accuracy, and really the thing that's going to make the difference is the shooter, which I kind of feel like I wasn't very consistent today. Any optics you put on, of course, are going to make that a more effective rifle and more accurate rifle, especially magnified optics. But even a good red dot is going to do the same thing for you. Something like a Primary Arms are among my favorites. For the price, I think they do extremely well. And of course, your higher price stuff like EOTechs and aim points and such. So today, what we learned is that both of these rifles have combat accuracy, no problem, right out of the box. I did have to do some windage adjustments with the Smith & Wesson. It was not a big deal, and I'm not sure how much of it I need to do, and I'm going to really find out when we go out and shoot at some longer distances. But really enjoyed bringing this to you today, guys. As always, it's fun to shoot. These are rifles that I've spent my own money on. So when you see or hear my opinions on things, these are based on a guy that is making an objective opinion. Nobody has given me ammo to test. Nobody's given me a rifle to test. I'm not going to torture my rifles. I'm going to take care of them, and I'm going to clean them after every shooting. So based on that, take my opinion with a grain of salt for what it's worth. And I hope you'll enjoy watching. We will, as the weather warms up here in Minnesota, we will get some outdoor shooting in some longer ranges, again with iron sights, because that's what these rifles were designed to do. That's how they're still rolling off the production line, especially in the Soviet Union with the AK-74 modernized. So thanks again for watching today. I appreciate your time. And as always, please support the National Rifle Association, and please shoot safe. This is DR Drake 63 saying thank you.